not saying that's the case. Let me finish.
I've got it on camera. I've been there 2 seconds. But then if there was no borders, there would be no Ukraine.
That she may not want to answer your questions.
No, it's cowardly.
So maybe just respect that.
She's going to stand on platform. One question.
Thank you, Jeremy, and thank you everyone who's come out today to take to the streets.
Hey, so here I am at Trafalgar Square once again. I've lost count of how many days I've had to be here over the last 10 days while the war has raged on. I think we're on 11 days now. 11 days while Ukrainians are sheltering in basements, sheltering in bomb shelters. Sheltering in schools, halls, or trying to basically cross the country, to leave the country.
Сейчас эвакуация гражданского населения массовая.
Because they've lost their homes, they've lost their businesses, they've lost everything. All because the war rages on. There's two types of protest in London. There's the pacifist type protests where people are cheering for peace, but they're also doing it in a slightly ignorant way, in the fact that they believe that if everyone puts down their arms, then suddenly there'll be peace and hunky-dory. I've just listened to people like Jeremy Corman and Larissa from the Students' Union, who seems to go by the statement, no borders. Without borders, there is no Ukraine, so how does that work out? But trying to get an answer from them will be proved nigh on impossible. But I might just go and try and corner her now.
Larissa, question. You said in your
Sorry, who am I speaking to?
You're speaking to Alex. You're the head of the Student Union. I'm a student.
Perfect.
You said on stage, you said no war. War doesn't bring any good. I agree with that statement. But then you also said borders don't bring any good. But then if there was no borders, there would be no Ukraine. So how does that work?
Yeah, I think we're talking about a broader vision of the world that we want to create here, talking about how we re-envision a world that is based in everyone's collective safety. We know that borders have caused historically huge amounts of harm. We know that this has been, the kind of ethno-nationalist foundations of this crisis are as they are.
But without,
and so that's the statement. Thank you so much.
Without borders, there's no Ukraine. So how do you, are you suggesting there should be no Ukraine? Without a border, Ukraine wouldn't exist. I'm just asking a simple question. We're both students. Can we answer
the question? Thank you so much for your question.
So you don't believe in countries? So why are you representing students if you don't believe countries? Why are you representing we should stop the war if you don't believe in borders? It's just a simple question. And by the way,
what are you doing?
I'm asking her why she doesn't believe in countries.
She doesn't want to answer you, so why don't you stop harassing her and move? Why don't you stop harassing her and move?
I'm a journalist.
Hello.
I'm a journalist.
Yeah, so he's harassing a woman.
Hello. Nice to meet you. What's the problem?
Just asking a simple question. She represents all students.
I appreciate that.
And I was asking a question when she said there should be no borders.
The lady there, she said that you've been following around harassing her. I'm not saying that's the case. Let me finish.
I've got it on camera. I've been there 2 seconds.
Can I finish?
All right.
I'm not saying that's the case.
That's not the
However, it's clear that she may not want to answer your questions at this
it's
time.
cowardly.
So maybe just respect that.
If she's going to stand on platform, she should ask one question.
Well, maybe respect that, and then
yeah, fine. It was 10 seconds. It was 10 seconds.
Okay.
What was your question? She stood on stage a moment ago, and she said war doesn't bring any good. I agree with that statement. But then she said borders doesn't bring any good. Without borders, there's no Ukraine. She doesn't believe in countries. So,
what do you think about this whole situation with Ukraine and Russia?
I'm actually a Ukrainian resident, so I'm a Ukrainian resident. I'm also, I came back to England. I was supposed to fly back on the Friday. I can't get back.
What do you think about the whole situation? Like,
I'm appalled by it. I'm absolutely appalled. I didn't think it was going to happen. I was ignorant not to believe it was going to happen. I came back to sort some documents out, and I came back and I didn't believe it was going to happen. What can we do about it? We can call for peace, but when we got, we got extreme campaigners here voicing the wrong messages, it really annoys me.
Yeah, unfortunately, in my opinion, it's all fake.
Okay, my friends are now, I've got many friends that are now refugees. I'm going to hopefully meet them soon by the Polish border.
No,
it's not fake for them.
For the people it's real.
Yeah.
But the government, they fake it. They all fake it.
No, there's a lot of propaganda. For example, the Russian warship "Go fuck yourself." Those people didn't die. They got escorted and they got captured. But the propaganda was they died.
Yeah.
Propaganda, they didn't die.
Ukrainian soldiers told Russian officer, "Go fuck yourself," before they died on island. They weren't killed, and here's a video of them peacefully surrendering. Ukraine island defenders who told Russian Navy, "Go fuck yourself," may still be alive. Whoop!
But people are dying right now. There's genocide happening on the roads. My friends that were trying to leave Mariupol, they couldn't leave because people got gunned down on the roads. It's not fake. What bit do you think is fake? And I mean this. I ask in a nice way.
We basically live in a matrix, basically. That's what I believe.
Okay, so it's a simulation.
No. As in, people are focusing on politics. Politics is all bullshit.
100%.
Everything is all bullshit.
Yeah.
So that means that everything's fake. If politics is all fake, then everything is fake because it's based on nothing. It's based on a lie.
All right, but so they start bombing here. Is it fake?
No, obviously the bombs are real.
Yeah.
The people dying are real.
Yeah.
But the reasons why they're doing it are all fake. If you look closely into it, these guys are all psychopaths. Like, they want a weird agenda. I don't know the truth, really, but all I know is what I'm seeing, it's all fake, it's all bullshit. That's what I see.
Okay, I mean, respect your stance, and I respect the fact that you're willing to have a conversation, unlike certain people that just go on stage.
They're all fakers as well. They're all
100%. I mean, think about how much money these guys are collecting for their so-called organisations, so they can prop up themselves and have their...
Honestly, I think they're scumbags, bro. That's what, truly and honestly, they're scumbags. That's what...
I think along similar lines, I'm not going to be as vocal. They're also human beings, sort of realise that. Like you, like myself, they're human beings. But you're right. They're not being generous. They're not being generous with the truth. Or maybe you think they're being completely disingenuous.
Absolutely. Especially last speaker, what was his name?
Jeremy Corbyn.
Oh my god. He's probably a Satanist, devil worshipper. He's a weirdo. I'm being honest.
Have you confronted him about that?
I should.
You should.
So that's the thing that really angers me about these Stop the War Coalition people and the people that speak on behalf of the NUS. The NUS supposedly speaks for all students. Well, right now, as you know, I'm a student in Ukraine, and I know that if I was a student in London, which I have been before, I've been a student in this great city, the head of the NUS never spoke for me, and the head of the NUS didn't really speak for the majority of students, but because they got themselves into a position, they could voice themselves and they could pretend that they were speaking for everyone. And the fact that the head of the NUS is pushing divisive viewpoints that are suggesting that black and minority students are being refused entry to trains in Ukraine is completely false. On the ground, it was basically women and children first, men second. If I'd been there, I'd have been the last to be boarding the trains because I'm a man, whereas the women and children were going first. And it's the same at the borders. Earlier on, there was a protest with a stage from the Stop the War Coalition, and they were basically suggesting that they shouldn't close the skies, but I noticed you have a sign. What are your thoughts?
We need to support. It's not just about sanction because it doesn't work. It's work, of course, because it's economic pressure, but that's not enough. Mm-hmm. You know, because people are dying right now while skies open, it will continue. So we need to do something.
Stage over there, they didn't want to close the skies. How do you feel about that?
I understand why, because it's war right now just in Ukraine, you know, and it could expand if not a real fighting, and it will become even worse, but still people are dying right now and we need to help. So this kind of dilemma.
It is a dilemma. And Ukrainian yourself?
No, I'm from Belarus.
Are you from Belarus? Do you have a message to the people of Ukraine and also the people back home in Belarus?
Oh yeah, personally I do what I can do right now. I also was involved in Belarusian protests in 2020, so that's why I'm here right now. Okay. Because I was in prison, so it was a long way and fighting against dictatorship. That's it.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Right behind me, there's an orchestra of about 100 musicians. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but they're playing the Ukrainian national anthem, as they have done every single day in this square since the war began. I think Londoners are going to grow quite fond of the Ukrainian national anthem as time goes on, but the hope is this will end soon. As I stand outside Horse Guards Parade, I notice the Ukrainian flags are flying high across British government buildings. Russia is trying to take Ukraine, and yet it almost feels like Ukraine has taken the United Kingdom, but in a positive way. There are flags everywhere in London. Outside pubs there are flags. People are carrying flags. Granted, I'm on the way to a Ukrainian gathering, but the fact that pubs and government buildings are showing the Ukrainian flag is quite heartwarming, I think. You'll note where the Ukrainian flags are, right at the top of Whitehall. Whitehall is where all government decisions really do take place. Where those gates are over there is Downing Street. The Union Jack and two Ukrainian flags flying very proudly. I think that's really decent of the British government. And there's another one over there, actually. There's another Ukrainian flag. So as I stand outside Downing Street, Boris Johnson possibly having his Sunday tea or Sunday roast, or maybe he's elsewhere. But the reality is there are people in Ukraine begging for the British assistance. They're begging because people are dying in the streets, people are dying on the roads, people are being bombed to death. We live in comfort right now in the United Kingdom, while all we can do is show the colours. I feel very helpless, and I think as does everyone else here. So here I find myself in Parliament Square, standing next to the great man Churchill. Some may disagree, some may agree, but the difference is he was prepared to fight, and this is probably representative of the people at this square. They are shouting the words, "I'm Ukraine now, I'm Ukraine now." Very different from the protest that was going on in Trafalgar Square. They were wanting peace, they were wanting pure pacifism, thinking that the problem would be solved if everyone just suddenly puts down their arms. Wishful thinking, I think. And you can understand why the Ukrainians want to fight for their country, and you can understand why they believe in borders, because without borders there is no Ukraine. Sadly, the head of the NUS in the UK seems to think that borders don't matter. The NUS president is typical of everything that is wrong with Western society right now. Institutions have been taken over by fanatics on the hard left. These fanatics would love to see the West dismantled, offering up solutions that in turn would only bring more problems. A borderless planet is exactly what the New World Order globalists would love. The radical left that has infected much of Western civilization has become the useful idiots to further their cause. With a borderless world, we erase identity, our culture, and who we are. As musical legend Morrissey once said, the more multicultural a society is, the less culture there is. You take out the Japanese from Japan, is it really still Japan? You take out the Europeans from Europe, when is it still Europe? And how dare the NUS president use her platform in front of people wanting the war to stop to push her neo-Marxist views by screaming racism at the Ukrainian train conductors and the Polish border force. Women and children were entitled to go first, not fit, healthy men. Colour was not relevant, but the understanding of the language of what was being said in either Ukrainian or Polish was crucial. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to film this, but trust me, this is what was said. She accused the Poles and the Ukrainians of being racist towards non-Ukrainians. She cheered on the BLM movement, which is a neo-Marxist movement. Shameful. The NUS and those affiliated to the hard left will continue making fools of themselves and attempting to dismantle Western society with their desire to censor language and push absurdities like pronouns. However, I want to spend no more time thinking about the absurdities of the left. We need to move on to more important issues, which is the Ukraine crisis being caused by Putin's invaders. I have my ear to the ground due to my constant communication with people I know who are scattered all over Ukraine. Over the years, I've made many good friends in Ukraine, and I've never known such feeling as the feelings I've experienced in the last 2 weeks of worry, fear, anger, and helplessness. My guess is everyone that you see in these images in this video has gone through and is going through similar feelings. And as time goes on and the images and the news becomes more and more distressing, it will only get worse for these people. I happen to have some incredibly brave and stubborn friends in Ukraine. I had spoken in many previous videos on how amazing the Ukrainian people were, and I felt people simply didn't believe me or maybe didn't register the reality of this unless they had prior experience in Ukraine. My friends, their families, neighbors, and fellow citizens have taken up arms and decided they will never surrender. I personally feel it would be better for the Ukrainians to take Putin's offer. He wants the Donetsk region and Crimea to be recognized as independent nations, and he wants Ukraine to agree to not sign up to the corrupt NATO alliance. In my mind, Ukraine is being used by the West, and they are clearly cannon fodder in the globalist game of chess. Ukraine could become the next long drawn-out Afghanistan, weakening the Russians over time as the West uses it as a proxy war. Afghanistan in the 1980s destroyed the Soviet Union and led to the breakup of the Soviet Union. The CIA know very well that they could draw this out with Russia and at the expense of the Ukrainian nation and the Ukrainian people. The people of Ukraine will be used by the globalists to weaken Russia over time. Arms dealers and NGOs will prosper while the population will suffer. Ukraine needs to realize for its own prosperity that the West will do it no favors. Gestures of Ukrainian flags on buildings help no one. It can't come soon enough that the Ukrainians realize that they were just one more sacrificial pawn on the Imperial chessboard. I really do pray for Ukraine, but my simple prayers won't help the people and the country I love. Sometimes it's better to regroup and accept the terms rather than go down fighting for the benefit of Imperial forces who have used you and spat you out. Controversial my opinions may be, these opinions may get dislikes. However, I stand by my views until I'm proved wrong. I only want the best for Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. Anyway, if you were one of the few that like this content, give it a like, click that subscribe button, and hopefully I will see you in the next video, and let's hope by the next video there will be peace. Well, it's very clear that everyone here wants NATO and the world to close the Ukrainian airspace. The problem with that is, as soon as we shoot down one Russian aircraft for invading the airspace, we suddenly will have Russia against the rest of the world. Russia versus the United Kingdom, Russia versus NATO, you name it. And then suddenly Putin in his madness will push that red button, and 10 minutes later it's game over for everyone. Game over. We are caught between a rock and a hard place right now, because if we bomb the crap out of Russia right now, we bomb all of those troops lined up, making their way towards the major cities in Ukraine, it's World War III. And I really, I don't know what we're going to do.
Запануй
Слава Україні!